Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Above the Business podcast. My name is Bradley Hamner, your host. If you're new to the podcast, we help small business owners get above the business, not just work on it or in it, but get above the business that so they can start thinking like an architect. What architects use, they use blueprints, and we believe you should have a blueprint for your small business. On today's episode, what I want to talk about is a something that my son just recently shared with me, and I just thought it was so. I'm on this kick around building simplicity into business, and it was just an example of that. And I try not to pull too many over analogies with different things about how this taught me this lesson in business, but I will say I feel like it was a really good reminder. So my son and his friends, they love sports, addicted to sports, and they decided to start a YouTube channel. Now, I thought about letting all of you know what the name of the YouTube channel was so you could follow, but I decided, no, I'm going to let him, in the spirit of what I'm actually going to share today, I'm going to let them to be able to go about sharing and trying to grow their own channel organically. But he was excited about it one day, and he told me the name of the YouTube channel and wanted me to subscribe. And so, of course, I subscribed and was excited about what they were going to be doing and how many episodes they were going to put out, and what the format was going to be. So they did an episode, and he said, "What'd you think?" And I watched it. I thought it was great. I mean, he loves sports. His buddies love sports. Cooper, my son, is the host of the podcast. He's just doing an excellent job. I'm so proud of him. But here's the lesson that I wanted to share with you: is it was the next day. He came in. He picked him up from school. It was after basketball practice, and he opened the door and he said, and it was such a good reminder for me. He said, I'm so excited. We now have 72 subs, of course, subscribers on YouTube. And I said, that's fantastic. I'm so happy for you. And he said, you know, you know what it takes? It's just one person at a time. He said, I've been going around all day today asking teachers and some of the faculty at school to subscribe. He said, you know what? That's what it takes to build a community, one person at a time. Now, that's not language that he would have necessarily picked up, from me. That's not things that I'm sharing with him. I want him to be, to be a little kid and to have his own experience. But what an incredible lesson to be reminded of is that in the effort of absolutely, don't get me wrong, that I believe you should have, that everything is downhill from the big vision that you have. And when you start to then reverse engineer, like there's a company that I'm a part of that we look at the number of sales that we want to make next year is about 130. It's about 130 sales next year. This year's target is 80, and I think we're going to get pretty close to that number. Next year's number is 130. Now that's 50 additional, but not to mention that's 130 sales. And when you're looking at it on an Excel spreadsheet, you can forget that there is people, each one of those sales, roughly 4 a week or so. No, 3 a week, excuse me. Something like that, 3 to 4 a week. That is absolutely, you are doing something to change the lives of those people in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I thought it was just such a great reminder that it happens, growth happens one person at a time. Now, who knows where this is going to go? How many different episodes are they going to put out? Does this end up turning into something that we'll look back on, even on this episode that I'm dropping, and say, wow, they ended up building a million, 5 million, subscriber YouTube channel off the back of some idea. I don't know what that looks like. And by the way, if you're wondering, I have given them zero input into what microphone to use or how to do the editing or any of those things. You know what? Because I think they need to figure it out on their own. And if he at some point comes and wants to ask around some of those things, then he will. But right now, it's exactly what they need. They need to try to figure it out, how to get an upload, how long to record, how to make sure that they hit record. Because I've certainly made that mistake before. But the intent of this is just to share with all of you that sometimes we got to go back and remember that growth happens one sale and one customer at a time. And when you may have that big vision to take your company to 1 million, as an example, there's a small group that we're working with, a business owners doing 25, 30,000 a month. And we're helping them to think, what does it look like to go from 30,000 a month to 40,000 a month? And to get them to realize that happens one sale, one customer at a time. And so leave it up to the innocence of kids to bring you back to what matters. And so for all of you, whether this gets 10 listeners or whether this gets 1,000 listeners off of this podcast, let me share with you that I'm grateful. Thank you for spending 5 to 15 minutes every Friday with me and me helping to try to share with you things real time that have a very poignant impact to me. And I brought that in when I was talking to our team about Q4 is that, hey, look, while we definitely want to, track leads and we want to track awareness and things of that nature, let us not forget that every person matters. And we're doing things in Q4 around this podcast and especially in 2026 to make this podcast exponentially better. Something that where you would be excited to share just with one person. And so if you have done that and you've been a loyal listener, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing this podcast just with one other person that may have an impact. So the question is then, well, what do we do? This very high level philosophical, Bradley. What is something we specifically can be able to do? I think number one is just a way to be able to help you to simplify the business. And one thing I would encourage you to do is to take and do a thinking time session. The next time you're going to go to a coffee shop and think about the business is to think, how can I boil this down for the team to realize that every lead and every prospect and every customer interaction matters, number one. And then number two, how can I ensure that we have a very simple customer journey for people to go on? And so for all of you, if you would love to know and find out a little bit more about our program, how we help the small business owners to become the architect of their business and what architects use, they use blueprints and have a business blueprint for where you are, then I'd love for you to book in a game plan call. And on that call, we'll find out about where you are, where you're wanting to go, and we'll map out a game plan to help you to be able to get there. If you go to blueprintos.com, you'll be able to book in a game plan call right away. And we'd love to help you to have a stage-based blueprint for where you are and to take you to ultimately where you want to go. So every customer matters. Remember, as Cooper said, you build a community, one person, one sub at a time. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I'll see you next week. Lead well and go be great. And by the way, if you're listening to this on YouTube, would love for you to like and subscribe, comment even what your biggest takeaway from this episode was. All right. Bye, everyone.